Good afternoon and good evening to all our participants connected today. It's my great pleasure that I welcome you all to episode 24 on STI Forum Side event on building back smarter and more sustainable cities through the United for Smart Sustainable Cities initiative. This webinar is jointly organized by ITU, U4SSC Austrian Country Hub, and Tanzania, in partnership with the Permanent Mission of with the Permanent Mission of Austria to the United Nations in New York. This webinar is part of the UN Multi-Stakeholder Forum on Science, Technology, and Innovation for the Sustainable Development Goals, and also part of ITU's webinar series on digital transformation. Today's episode will feature the official launch of two important publications, the U4SSC Procurement Guidelines for Smart Sustainable Cities, and the brochure on building a people-centered digital future for cities and communities. We have an excellent list of panelists for today's discussion, and we are also very privileged to have in our midst very distinguished speakers. So without further ado, I would like to give the floor to the Honorable Minister, Mr. Nape Nnauye of the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology in Tanzania to give his opening remarks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to join you. Your Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and also good evening. Thank you for inviting me to the STI Forum 2023 side event on building back smarter and more sustainable cities through the United for Smart Sustainable Cities initiative. It is my great honor to join you all today in this forum, bringing together policymakers, business and industry leaders, researchers, as well as partners in the science, technology, and innovation for smart, sustainable cities to share views and explore ways to make our cities smarter. Please allow me to express my sincere gratitude to our co-organizer, His Excellency Mr. Hans Joachim, Deputy Permanent Representative and Minister Plenipotentiary and Permanent Mission of Austria to the United Nations. Mr. Sales Onoe, the Director, Telecommunication Standardization Bureau of ITU, and also Babel Kom, Chairman of the U4SSC Austrian Country Hub, for their steadfast support to this forum and their commitment to STI and smart sustainable cities and communities. Special thanks to ITU Secretariat and all speakers who, for sure, spent much of their time to prepare the relevant material for this forum. Ladies and gentlemen, cities are made of people, by people and for people. The growth of cities creates unprecedented sustainability challenges, increasing demands for energy, water, sanitation, education, healthcare, housing, transport, and public services are testing the limits of city infrastructures. In addition, urban centers increasingly witness social tension brought by traffic congestions, air and water pollution, urban crime, just to mention a few. Future response to these challenges require an urgent rethinking of urban planning and the use of digital solutions. Digital technologies can be used to respond to these issues and to enhance quality and accessibility of services and thereby improve citizens' lives while creating new opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, in Tanzania, the renewed thrust to relocate the government from Dar es Salaam to Dodoma in 2016 has resulted into unprecedented growth of the population in the city of Dodoma. Dodoma is at a point of transition where the pace of urbanization will continue for a time. Given the projected rapid growth of Dodoma populations over the next few decades, and considering what we want for the future, Dodoma, the government of Tanzania is now putting in place systems that will support our future needs in a sustainable and integrated way. It is in this context that the government is developing Dodoma as a pilot smart city in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, I fully understand that a coordinated and a streamlined effort is required to develop Smart Dodoma in the right direction by involving all stakeholders. Smart Dodoma development is intended to cut across many sectors, such as transport, water quality, energy, healthcare, education, public services, and ICT. The approach will overcome the limitations of traditional urban development that tends to plan and manage urban infrastructure systems in silos. The Smart Dodoma will be built upon the developed Dodoma National Capital Master Plan of 2019 to 2039, which provides a framework for the development of Dodoma National Capital for the time horizon of 20 years. For the government of Tanzania, smart city is the future approach to urban planning, development, and management, as it can provide solutions to urban challenges, such as the inefficient delivery of urban services, environmental pollution, and traffic congestion. The SDG 11 sets a global ambition for cities and human settlements to be inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Central to realizing this, this is the infrastructure that supports and influences our health, wealth, security, and well-being. The government of Tanzania has identified improvement of infrastructure as a priority for both service delivery and economic growth to achieve the SDG 11. However, without localizing SDGs at the national and urban level, few can be effectively addressed at all. Distinguished delegates, the ITU plays a crucial role as a global platform for the development of international standards, which accelerate digital transformation in cities and communities. Tanzania is proud of its leadership role in the ITU Study Group 20 on Internet of Things and Smart Cities and Communities. Tanzania works with all stakeholders to ensure that global standardization efforts are people-centered and developed for the benefit of all. I am pleased to see that the United for Smart Sustainable Cities initiative, coordinated by the ITU along with the other 19 UN bodies, provides the guidance necessary to help cities along their smartness and sustainability pathway. I request for a partnership that will enable Tanzania to develop a comprehensive framework and customize these KPIs for the Dodoma city so that they can provide a means for self-assessment and monitoring of Dodoma's sustainable development progress towards achieving the SDGs. We believe that through this comprehensive framework, the KPIs will give a clear picture of Dodoma's smartness and sustainability. In closing, I would like to insist that planning and investment in the STIs are critical in building resilience, future-proof cities that can meet the challenges of today and tomorrow. I am confident that Tanzania will not remain behind in development, adoption, as well as deployment of STIs necessary for transforming our cities and communities into smart, sustainable cities and communities. I wish you all a fruitful time of discussions and communities. I wish you all a fruitful time of discussions and deliberations. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. So now I would like to give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Hans Joachim Almos-Neschner, Deputy Permanent Representative and Minister Plenipotentiary of the Permanent Mission of Austria to the United Nations, to give us his opening remarks.
Thank you, and good afternoon from New York. Your Excellency, Minister Naue, Madam Chair, Dr. Kolm, Director on NOAA, Excellencies, dear colleagues and participants. On behalf of the Permanent Mission of Austria to the United Nations in New York, I'm very honored to welcome you to today's ITU webinar on digital transformation, which is also an STI Forum Side event with a focus on sustainable cities. I would like to thank in particular ITU, the Austrian country hub of the United for Smart and Sustainable Cities initiative, as well as the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology of Tanzania for organizing this event. Let me start by extending a very warm welcome and our gratitude to the co-organizers, in particular to His Excellency Minister Nape Naue in Dodoma, Dr. Barbara Kolm, the chair of the Austrian country hub of the United for Smart and Sustainable Cities initiative in Vienna, as well as Mr. Saizo Onoe, the director of the Telecommunication Standardization Bureau at the ITU in Geneva. I would also like to warmly welcome the moderator, Vice Chair, Ms. Tanya Marcos, all speakers and panelists, as well as our online audience. I'm very happy to be part of this event, virtually connected in 4 different cities and followed by an audience around the world. I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. And we have just concluded our first morning session of the STI Forum here in New York. The opening and first session today followed an all-day special event focusing on science, technology, and innovation in Africa yesterday. Our session today will be focusing on empowering digital transformation in cities, and it will therefore highlight the crucial role of cities in accelerating their digital transformation towards smart and sustainable development. In this respect, we look forward to hearing more about key performance indicators as the initiative's unique tools for monitoring and evaluating the sustainability level of cities. In the context of the STI Forum, we look forward to learning more about the digital transformation processes in particular. As we have heard, we will also be launching officially the U4SSC Procurement Guidelines for Smart Sustainable Cities, which will provide cities with the tools to transition away from traditional approaches to more sustainable procurement practices thus improving the supply chain performance of cities. Distinguished Minister, dear colleagues, as cities around the world are confronted with rapid urbanization, socioeconomic challenges, the negative effects of climate change, and many other aspects of organizing a peaceful, healthy, and sustainable coexistence in megacities, such as here in New York, the role of technology and of digital transformation is becoming more and more important. What does this mean in concrete terms? What are examples of digital innovation, and to what extent can these lessons learned in one city be a possible model and inspiration for other cities? These are some of the questions I would have for the panel, and there are certainly many more. So I would like to encourage all of you to actively engage in the second part of our event. Let me conclude by also pointing out the current informal consultations on the Global Digital Compact under the leadership of the permanent representatives of Rwanda and Sweden, and with the support of the Secretary General's Envoy on Technology, as well as the input from member states and the multi-stakeholder community. Austria is closely following this process, having submitted written comments as part of the European Union contribution and in our national capacity, and we look forward to hear about the views of member state stakeholders and interest groups. In this regard, we very much appreciate this side event with a special focus on cities as another key event to take into account in this process. In this respect, I would like to thank the organizers and contributors once again and wish us all an inspiring and thought-provoking event. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. So now I would like to call on Mr. Seizo Onoe, Director of the Telecommunications Standardization Bureau of the ITU, to give us his opening remarks.
Thank you. His Excellency, Mr. Nape Unawe, Ministry of Communication and Information Technology, Tanzania. His Excellency, Mr. Hans-Joachim Amos-Reckner, Deputy Permanent Representative and Minister Plenipotentiary, Permanent Mission of Austria to the United Nations. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to this side event on building back smarter and more sustainable cities through the United for Smart Sustainable City initiative. As already introduced, this side event is organized together with the U4SSC Austrian Country Hub, the government of Tanzania, and in partnership with the Permanent Mission of Austria to the United Nations as a part of the UN Multi-Stakeholder Forum on Science, Technology, and Innovation for the Sustainable Development Goals. Today, we will explore and highlight the importance of the global UN initiatives, such as the United for the Smart Sustainable Cities initiative, and how it provides a platform to help cities accelerate their digital transformation, including through the U4SSC key performance indicators, which help cities to drive and measure their digital transformation progress. At the ITU, we recognize the importance of establishing human-centric smart cities in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Cities around the world face rapid urbanization, economic constraints, and environmental stresses. To address these challenges, city administrators are turning to digital technologies to reshape how services are offered in the urban. By employing digital technologies, cities can increase efficiencies, economic development, sustainability, and life quality for inhabitants in urban areas, demonstrating how cities are accelerating their recovery from COVID-19 and achieving the 2030 agenda for sustainable development at all levels. That is why the work on cities is high on our agenda. International standards developed in ITU help cities around the world to be more efficient, sustainable, and beneficial for their inhabitants. One of the key areas of the focus is in this regard is the work of ITUT Study Group 20 on Internet of Things and smart cities and communities. Over its long history, the ITU has supported the development of many innovative technologies and activities. The U4SSC initiative is one such activity. ITU worked with other 19 UN partner agencies to create a platform to support cities in ensuring that their digital transformation initiative align with the SDGs. As a result, today, the U4SSC has supported over 150 cities on their sustainable digital transformation journey, serving as a global platform to advocate for public policy and encourage digital technologies use to facilitate smart, sustainable cities. Today, I'm excited to announce the official launch of the U4SSC Procurement Guidelines for Smart, Sustainable Cities. The new guideline provides cities with tools to transition away from traditional approaches to more sustainable procurement practices, thereby improving their supply chain performance. Moreover, the guideline demonstrates the potential of sustainable procurement practices to help cities achieve these SDGs successfully. In addition to the guideline, today we are releasing the new building People-Centered Digital Future for Cities and Communities brochure. This brochure highlights ITU's activities and initiatives aimed at driving the development and standardization of smart, sustainable cities and communities. The ITU continues to be at the forefront of ensuring technologies like IoT, AI, digital twin, and metaverse support the achievement of the SDGs through digital transformation. ITU's digital transformation webinar series is one of the ways we identify new ideas and initiatives. I am pleased to see so many experts and viewers joining us today. I hope you will find today's discussion interesting and insightful. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Inoue-san. And now, last but not the least, I would like to call Dr. Barbara Kolm, Chairman of the U4SSC Austrian Country Hub, to give her welcoming remarks.
My name is Barbara Kolm. I'm the chairperson of the United for Smart Sustainable Cities Austrian Country Hub, and I welcome you all to this wonderful conference of the 24th STI Forum. And my special greetings go to His Excellence Mr. Nape Nunaye from Ministry of Communications and Information Technology from Tanzania. Thank you for joining us, Your Excellency. Then His Excellency Mr. Hans-Joachim Almoslechner, who is the Deputy Permanent Representative and Minister of Plenipotentiary at the Permanent Mission of Austria to the United Nations. Thank you very much for hopping over the street from the New York office to the United Nations. And finally, to Mr. Saizo Noe, our Director at the Telecommunications Standardization Bureau at ITU. Ladies and gentlemen, as a chairman of the U4SSC Country Hub, it is a pleasure to welcome you to this webinar jointly or co-organized with ITU, the government of Tanzania, and in partnership with the Permanent Mission of Austria to the United Nations in New York. Today's webinar is a side event of the UN Multi-Stakeholder Forum on Science, Technology and Innovation for the Sustainable Development Goals. The U4SSC Country Hub in Austria is a unique platform which accelerates cooperation between public and private sector and helps facilitate the digital transformation in cities and communities. Thanks to the convening power of the ITU to bring together UN agencies, governments, industries, academia, and social society, initiatives such as United for Smart Sustainable Cities, the U4SSC, can be developed for the benefit of all and support the achievement of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals. One of the outcomes of the U4SSC initiative has been the development of the U4SSC Key Performance Indicators, our KPIs, which today help cities to drive and measure their digital transformation progress. Over 150 cities have so far undergone a U4SSC KPI assessment to evaluate their level of smartness and sustainability. And of course, we invite many more to join this initiative. Following the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw the positive role of digital technologies and what role they can play in all aspects of our lives. By employing digital technologies, cities can increase efficiency, sustainability, economic development, and life quality for their inhabitants. I look forward to hearing about digital technologies, how they can better support cities and their inhabitants, how the KPIs can help cities make better informed decisions, and the latest progress made by U4SSC. Thank you for your attention. Looking forward to our events.
Thank you, Barbara, and to all our panelists. So before we move ahead, please take note of the following house rules. So all questions will be taken during the Q&A session. However, we encourage you to submit your questions via the Q&A function. So the event is being recorded, and the recording and also the presentations will be made available on the event website. So now, to go to the session proper, I would now like to invite Ms. Tanya Marcus, Vice Chairman of the U4SSC, to lead us through the session on empowering digital transformation in cities.
Thank you very much, Chiara. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, welcome to the STI Forum 2023 side event on building back smarter and more sustainable cities through the United for Smart Sustainable Cities initiative. My name is Tania Marcos, and I'm the Vice Chairman of the U4SSC initiative. I will be moderating today's webinar. This webinar is the 24th episode of the ITU Digital Transformation webinar series, which aims to investigate the expanding role of digital transformation in driving innovation, sustainable growth, and inclusion, as well as responding to crisis situations. Today, with our distinguished speakers, we will look at the crucial role of assessment and procurement in accelerating digital transformation of cities and communities towards smart and sustainable development. You can also expect to learn today how U4SSC KPIs can help cities drive and measure their digital transformation progress. Our experts will provide insights into how cities can accelerate their digital transformation by leveraging the U4SSC KPIs. We have a lot to discuss, so let's get started. Allow me to introduce our 5 expert panelists for today. The first speaker will be Ms. Cristina Bueti, the U4SSC focal point and conciliar at ITU. She is the ITU focal point on smart sustainable cities and also the conciliar for ITU-T Study Group 20, already mentioned, on Internet of Things and smart cities and communities. And she's the counselor also of the focus group on metaverse at the International Telecommunications Union, and also serves as focal point for Latin America. Then we will have John Smithiclas, who is a U4SSC verifier. He's currently the president of JD Global Sustainability Associates Incorporated. John also works with the U4SSC initiative in helping cities globally implement the key performance indicators to meet the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Then we will have Warren Smith, the leader of the U4SSC thematic group on procurement guidelines for smart sustainable cities, who joined the UK government digital service in 2012 with responsibility for its digital marketplace program, introducing user-centered, design-led, data-driven, and open approaches in public contracting. And Warren also championed the UK government's adoption of the Open Contracting Data Standard and the Beneficial Ownership Data Standard. And he is now Associate Director of Kurshaw, a commercial lifecycle consultancy working with governments around the world who wants to modernize their public procurement. Then we will have Cristina Martinez Pinto, who is the founder and CEO of the PIT Policy Lab, where she works at the intersection of public interest, technology, and agile policymaking with a focus in Latin America. And finally, last but not least, Alexander Boschan, coordinator and project manager in Pully, Switzerland. He's a member of the head of the Department for Industrial Services and Technical Office of the city of Pully in Switzerland. He leads the implementation in the city of Pully of the U4SSC KPIs, according to the method developed by the International Telecommunications Union, and initiated the piloted the writing of Pully under the microscope. So, having presented our 5 excellent speakers, I give the floor to Ms. Cristina Bueti. Cristina, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, good evening, and thank you, Tanya, for for this presentation. I'd like now to share my screen, and I hope that you are able to see my screen.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. So it's my pleasure to share with you what we are doing at the ITU to help cities accelerating their digital transformation. As we have seen from previous speakers, we have heard, cities have been confronted with many challenges, including air pollution, overpopulation, traffic congestion, and there is an increasing trend, which is that, inhabitants are moving to cities and by 2050 we expect that 70% of the population will live in cities. This means that the driving digital transformation and achieving smartness and sustainability is a journey and not a point in time. Cities and governments, they have really to keep up with the ever-evolving ecosystem of digital innovation, and digital transformation has to be seen as a multi-year endeavor that is involving different stakeholders, starting from setting realistic targets, exploring how new data, technologies, and tools can be used for better informed decision, how citizens and inhabitants can be engaged in the decision-making process, how partnership development, and in particular, how public-private partnership can be fostered, and the impact assessment that projects and initiatives have on the cities needs to be evaluated to be able to take the necessary action and correct eventually with additional measures if needed. And last but not least, cities and governments, they are confronted with lack of resources, including financial resources. So it is important that they look at innovative financial sources in order to be able to accelerate the digital transformation. The final objectives is certainly to build people-centered cities and communities, which means actually embracing a new approach whereby technology is a means and not the final goal. Empowering people, making sure that access to technology is equitable. In ensuring actually that data are being managed responsibly and that the digital infrastructure is put in place to allow cities to be able to perform and offer city services. Security, trust, and privacy are key components when we look at building, people-centered cities and communities, and certainly building trust is one final goal. Last but not least, it is important to build multi-stakeholder capacity, which will give the necessary trainings and the necessary information to the community in order to be able also to use technology efficiently. ITU is the United Nations Specialized Agency for Digital Technologies. The ITU's membership comprises 193 member states, and we have over 700 companies and over 170 academia members. The ITU is really committed to connecting the world and wherever they live and whatever their means are. So through our work, we protect and support everyone's rights to communicate. In this effort to help actually cities in accelerating digital transformation, ITU through ITT Study Group 20, which is its key standards group, develop a set of recommendations, which are standards that provide guidance on how cities actually can overcome many of the challenges described before. It also supports digital transformation in both rural and urban areas, enabled by solutions like Internet of Things, digital twins, and AI. And SG20 standards actually spans different areas from, for example, standards that are, focused on, infrastructure and architecture, to interoperability, to identification and security, or, on assessment and measurement. And just to give you an example of some of the standards that have been developed by Study Group 20, I'd like to mention the importance of interoperability and the possibility, especially for city, to be able to share data. So, transitioning from a silo situation whereby, as you can see, energy, water, for example, or health data cannot be shared to, a cross-sector information sharing scenario whereby cities, they can provide better services to their inhabitants, maximizing the efficiency, reducing cost, improving scalability, and most importantly, avoiding vendor lock-in. So by enabling interoperability with other platforms, smart city platforms also encourage local economic development through innovation and competition. And this is why actually ITU has developed these two key standards that help define the requirements and interoperability for smart city platforms and their reference points in order to ensure the correct functioning of city services. We have also teamed up with other 11 UN entities, and we have developed a toolkit on digital transformation for cities and communities, which comprises 11 modules addressing different topics and offering cities the possibility, for example, to learn how to develop digital transformation strategies, or how, for example, they can improve accessibility or reduce the environmental impact in their cities. The toolkit is available for free and really collects and highlights various standards, reports, and other resources that stakeholders will find highly useful, especially in affecting digital transformation to improve sustainability, inclusivity, resilience, and responsiveness in their cities and communities. To complement the work that ITU does in the area of standards, the United for Smart Sustainable Cities is this UN platforms that has been launched in 2016, and through the work of its thematic groups is really helping and supporting cities on their digital transformation journey in order also to help them achieve the sustainable development goals. The U4SSC has developed various reports and guidelines. Today we will be launching actually the U4SSC guidelines on procurement that Warren will present later on, but you can see on the slides the latest reports, including, for example, a report on how a digital solution for integrated city management and use cases could be used, or even reports on how smart public health, emergency management, and ICT implementation can help cities, especially in the post-COVID era. We also have been working with over 150 cities to implement an ITU standard on key performance indicators to assess the smartness and sustainability of cities, and also the progress towards which the cities are achieving the SDGs. And I'm pleased that John Smichigas will provide detailed information on these implementations worldwide. So what's next? The future of cities and communities really depends on people-centric digital transformation, and certainly on harnessing and leveraging frontier technologies. ITU's latest effort is focusing on metaverse. So I'd like to take the opportunity to invite all of you to join the latest focus group that ITU has launched on metaverse, which provide a unique collaboration platform to shape an open, inclusive, sustainable, and interoperable metaverse. This focus group comprises 8 working groups ranging different topics, where you have the opportunity to contribute to shape a metaverse for the benefit of all. And then last but not least, as it was mentioned by Mr. Onoe, Director of TSB, today we are very pleased to launch this new brochure which collects information on ITU's latest activities on smart sustainable cities, and we're very happy that this launch is happening during this side event. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you thank you very much, Christina, and also thank you very much to the Secretariat support that is giving in the chat the links to download the toolkit and to access the mentioned groups. Now I give the floor to Warren Smith. Sorry, to John Smichigas. Sorry.
Okay, let me bring up the presentation. Just want to confirm everybody can see this?
Yes, okay, we can.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. You're welcome to this brief presentation. We have heard a lot about the U4SSC KPIs, and it's my pleasure to provide this brief presentation and overview of the key performance indicators that we've developed through the U4SSC initiative. I think the KPIs were probably the first deliverable that came out of the initiative back in 2017 or 2018. And over the period of time, it's been implemented in a number of cities around the world, and I've had the pleasure to be the official verifier working with cities in developing a lot of the reports. So the actual KPIs, they were developed, the number of objectives, one to help cities to have a standardized method to collect data, measure performance in achieving the SDGs, in becoming a smarter city, becoming a more sustainable city, and more recently in helping to support digital transformation in those cities. The document itself, the key performance indicators, we have an official collection methodology. And at the same time, the methodology is based on ITU, an ITU standard wide 4903. And this is a list of some of the cities that I've had the pleasure of working with. Korea, Iran, Dubai, Singapore, Riyadh, and Saudi Arabia, etc. We've worked with cities all over the world, and there's approximately over 150 cities that are using the KPIs at the current time. Sorry. And as we said, we developed the key performance indicators to allow cities to not only collect data in a standardized methodology, but so that they're able to track their progress over time. We look at the dissemination of best practices through our benchmarking process. We demonstrate cities where they might be looking at best practices. And it allows cities to measure their progress in meeting the Sustainable Development Goals. The key performance indicators are focused on 3 dimensions, or categorized in 3 dimensions: economy, environment, and society and culture. Within each of those dimensions, the KPIs are further categorized and subdivided into these various categories. Also note that of the indicators, there are 55 of what we call core indicators. These are indicators that really apply to any city, anywhere. And then in 36, we call advanced indicators. And some of these are more about issues that are of, say, an advanced nature that some cities might not yet be implementing, but may want to take a look at it. We further subdivide them into smart indicators, structural indicators, and sustainable indicators. And overall, because some of the indicator KPIs themselves are disaggregated, there's actually 132 data collection points that we collect through this process. So to describe the KPIs, there's really 4 ways that we describe them. Overall, they should be comprehensive, so it should cover really all aspects of a smart, sustainable city. The KPIs should, as much as possible, be quantitative. The data should be collectible, and it should be easy to collect. So we went through a number of iterations, and this is actually probably the 3rd sort of version. So as we went and tested this with cities, they gave us feedback to tell us, which KPIs they could collect data, which ones they couldn't, and how to better make the definitions so that they're easier to collect. Again, the idea of simplicity, so it should be easy to understand, it should not be very complicated. And timeliness, and by that we mean it should also look at emerging issues in smart, sustainable cities. So if we look at, for instance, mobile networks, we started asking about 3G, went to 4G, and now we're asking about 5G as part of the KPI data collection. So each of the KPIs has been sort of divided and standardized so that we give you a rationale of why we chose the indicator, how the indicator should be interpreted, what benchmarking trends. We developed benchmarking for each of the KPIs and how that benchmark should be interpreted, whether a higher value is better, whether a lower value is better. And we provide a full methodology on how to calculate the value
of the KPI, how to report it, and potential sources of data, where you might be looking at it. Not all data for the KPIs would be within the actual city itself. Some would require, depending on how the city is organized, for the city team to go out and ask outside stakeholders. So this is an example of one of the KPIs. In this case, we have traffic fatalities. As you can see, we define it as traffic fatalities per 100,000 inhabitants. We put the methodology, we give you sources, we give you some rationale and interpretation. We also at the bottom link it to the SDGs so that cities can use this as a potential for a voluntary local review for reporting their progress to the meeting the goals and targets of the Sustainable Development Goals. A little bit more detail here on the structure, the 3 dimensions. We have a number of subdimensions for each of the dimensions, and then further subdivided into various categories. So in this way, there's sort of themes within each of the dimensions that we do benchmarking. And so as we do the benchmarking, we actually aggregate the scores for each of the KPIs into the categories, subdimensions, and dimensions. So to give you some idea of some of the other KPIs, we have, for instance, we ask about smart water meters, smart energy meters. In the transportation, we talk about shared vehicles. On the environment side, we're asking about GHG emissions. We're asking about e-government initiatives and adult literacy. So these are some of the KPIs, and obviously, with the analysis, we really recommend you go through the collection methodology and the ITU standard to get the full details on all the KPIs. So as we go through the process of implementing the KPIs, we get results, and the idea behind the sort of results and the reports that we perform is that we want you to track the progress to meeting the Sustainable Development Goals, becoming smarter, more sustainable. It should allow you to do trend analysis, particularly as the data is collected over a longer period of time. Our reports provide benchmarking performance, and that can be against the SDGs. It could be against for the best performance of a city worldwide, or it could be to some other UN goals. This allows cities to compare their results, not as a sort of a ranking, but really to find out where they may have issues, where they're doing well, and where they could actually do better. So how do these KPIs work? First and foremost, we develop a series of reports. As part of that report, we do a benchmarking analysis, and then we provide a visual map of the benchmarking using sort of the traffic light system, red, yellow, green, to show cities where they're performing well, where they can perform potentially better. So the process itself, I'll briefly go through it, is the city will send an invitation letter asking to be part of the process. We'll put together a data collection template for the city, go through initial meeting to introduce the city team, the verification team, the tools. The city then will develop, go out and collect the data, interact with myself or other people in terms of how to collect the data, put together initial submission. That's where I do a review and feedback and provide questions back to the city as to what areas we see that maybe the data hasn't been properly supported. We complete the verification, develop draft reports. Again, the cities will review this, and after this, we finalize the reports and provide a certificate of achievement from the ITU. So in terms of the reports, there's 3 different reports that we develop. One is a city snapshot, and it's a visual overview of the KPIs, the performance, and the reporting. The verification report is essentially a full report on all the KPIs, the data collected, what's been verified, how the city has performed in each of those. And the most in-depth one that we have is a case study. And we just actually completed one last year for the city of Daegu in Korea. And it not only goes through the verification process, but then we also highlight all the initiatives the cities are doing to make themselves smarter and more sustainable. So to give you an idea, here is one of the visuals that we prepared, the benchmarking wheel, as we like to call it, with all the KPIs on the outer circle, the categories in the sort of middle circle, and the dimensions in the inner circle. And again, you'll see the coloring system shows very clearly, areas of dark green, which are the best performance, areas of red, which may highlight areas that a city should look at, but also understand it in a local context. Similarly, we also do in the city snapshot, we provide a little more details in terms of the subdimensions. So under economy, the 3 subdimensions, under environment, and under society and culture. And again, the benchmarking visual for those. And one that we completed most recently, which is Shebi in Ghana. And again, you see a little different performance. In this case, we also developed certain local KPIs that they wanted to also report on. And so as we see, these KPIs are applicable to maybe, let's say, a very city that would be considered highly advanced in terms of smartness, and others that are on the, on the ladder, on the journey to becoming smarter and more sustainable. And again, one other one that we did, Valencia, a while ago. And again, the idea of the performance, and Valencia used this benchmarking to say, let's look at the areas that are highlighted in red and see where we need to potentially improve and understand what it is. Why are we considered to be sort of the lower performance in these areas, and how can we improve? So some of the key advantages with this, it's these are key performance indicators that are based on international standard, and they're supported by UN agencies. They support cities in making informed policy making. Going through the benchmarking, we get a lot of feedback from cities saying, we didn't understand that we might have an issue here. Now that we do, now we're going to take a look at it, work with internal stakeholders, look at other cities, see how we can do better. As we said, identifying areas of improvement. It allows cities to develop sort of stronger strategies. In that case, is you're looking at a particular issue, you didn't realize it was an issue. Now it is an issue. Now you actually have the data to support developing a stronger strategy to address the issue. And another thing is, it does help cities to accelerate digital transformation and achieve the SDGs. Typically when we get into the case study, we do a lot of work in sort of measuring progress to the SDGs and allow the cities then to use the KPIs as the basis for voluntary local review. So how to get involved? We have a number of ways. I'm sure within the chat, we've probably put up how to get in touch. Please get in touch with U4SSC. What is it to look at? How to get involved? One is to implement the KPIs, but the second step is to go through the formal verification process, collect the data, collect the back data, and then put together the reports, which can either be used internally, or as some cities chose to, put out publicly to show to their citizens and other cities, how they're progressing. So thank you very much. I will stick around for some questions afterwards. And there's the contact information you can go to get more information on the KPIs.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you for showing us the application of the KPIs. Before closing, I want to reply to a question that is online, and the question was if there were any economies that are fully ready to be smart city or in the emerging stage. Thank you, John, for having clarified this, that there's no matter of on the type of the economies, that any kind of city, no matter the size or where it is located, can start this journey to transform in a smart, sustainable city. Now I give the floor to Warren Smith. Warren, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tanya. Excellencies, esteemed speakers and fellow panelists, I'm delighted to join you today to share the work of the U4SSC thematic group on procurement guidelines for smart, sustainable cities, and also to share how the guidelines support a new digital commercial paradigm to ensure public procurement delivers positive impacts for the well-being of people and the planet today and for future generations. Next slide, please. So first, I'd just like to give a brief overview and background to the development of the guidelines, and also to cover what the guidelines are as an introduction. So back in October 2019, I was invited to deliver a presentation on the opportunities surrounding public procurement during the 9th edition of the Green Standards Week and the 4th annual meeting of the U4SSC initiative, which was held in Valencia, Spain. And following these meetings, a number of new U4SSC thematic groups were created, one of which was the group focusing on procurement guidelines for smart, sustainable cities, which I've led since then in collaboration with my colleague, John Davies. And at the time, I was a senior official working for the UK Government Digital Service, where I led a global procurement reform programme. And my colleague, John, was the head of subnational government and tech sector engagement for this programme. And so the focus of our U4SSC thematic group has been to develop clear, plain language guidance that helps people take practical steps at each stage throughout the digital data and technology buying cycle. The rationale here is that although we're focusing on public procurement, the reality is that key decisions are made way before the procurement takes place, as well as once a contract has been awarded. So the impact of these decisions, whether they're good, not so good, or indeed sometimes bad, flow throughout the commercial life cycle. And it's therefore imperative that a holistic approach is taken that starts with the pre-procurement planning stage and supports constructively engaging with the market. This means informing the market so that they're aware of the problems that cities are trying to solve for their communities and the outcomes they're aiming to achieve that address those problems, and the social, environmental, cultural, and economic value they're aiming to realize through their commercial activities. And it's these considerations that must be absolutely core to the design of user-centered and outcomes-based procurement requirements and evaluation and award criteria, and how constructive and collaborative delivery is managed through public contracts. The guidelines are therefore structured in this way, and for each sub-element described within the commercial life cycle, we talk about why it's important, what it practically means, and what to do and what not to do to ensure good outcomes are achieved. And to illustrate the guidance, we've gathered a collection of case studies from public sector organizations around the world, which helps demonstrate how people are taking these approaches within their country and local contexts. Next slide, please. So some examples of case studies include how the Dominican Republic's first female director of public procurement, Dr. Yocasta Guzman, led the launch of a range of initiatives aimed at women-owned businesses. And this included encouraging women to register as suppliers on the government database, setting targets for a percentage of government contracts to go exclusively to women-owned businesses, as well as running events and workshops to familiarize women with public procurement. The guidelines also share how Mexico City authorities worked with a nonprofit organization, the Open Contracting Partnership, who were able to share examples from across the world of better practices and new contracting approaches to improve bike sharing systems. And this included sharing data such as financial and usage statistics via a dedicated website and designing the new service together with suppliers and with the public. Through the guidelines, we learn also how Ecuador's Public Procurement Agency launched a public monitoring tool for emergency procurement on its platform, which before the pandemic was in the process of being upgraded to use the Open Contracting Data Standard. And this allows users to disclose data and documents at every stage of the commercial lifecycle. This included using videos shared via social media to publicize how people could search for contracts issued during the pandemic and encouraging the public to provide feedback on the tool in real time to help identify areas to improve. And we also share in the guidelines how Mexico is using open procurement related data and an engaged public to help identify corruption risks by bringing data together from different levels of government. And this involves making procurement data more accessible, more comparable, and more useful, and how taking a coordinated national approach can help state and city governments to provide data to a national platform. And also through the guidelines, we learn how New Zealand is helping public buyers to create opportunities for Indigenous and regional businesses, as well as social enterprises. And this is achieved by sharing information early and designing services collaboratively with Indigenous groups, including simplifying procurement documentation and avoiding the use of complex technical requirements. I'll cover how Indonesia is designing cities that work for women in the next couple of slides. Next slide, please. So taking a closer look at the Indonesian case study on designing cities that work for women, this provides us with an opportunity to look at the section of the guidelines that focuses on the pre-procurement planning stage of the commercial life cycle, and specifically the sub-element of understanding user needs. Developing a deep understanding of users of city services also means understanding the problems that you're trying to solve for them. And doing research on users' needs will help ensure that you test any assumptions that you have about your users, ensure there is a valid need for what you are procuring, and also make services better value and more cost-effective to run in the long term. So despite a revolution in how we work and an increasingly diverse society, most cities are still designed by and for men. Urban environments can be frustrating, inconvenient, or even downright dangerous for women, especially those who don't work a 9-to-5 job. In 2019, UN Women and the UN Global Pulse Lab Jakarta launched a project to explore the problem in 3 Indonesian cities. This project has shown the importance of including women in the planning and implementation of safe, sustainable cities. For example, the project found that the needs, interests, and routines of women and girls are often neglected in the process of city planning. The project also demonstrated that cities can be designed in a gender-inclusive way by taking a user-centered approach with evidence of user needs based on in-depth user research carried out by professional user researchers. And additionally, the project was able to demonstrate how inviting stakeholders to meet real users, in this case, women and girls who are users of public services available in the urban environment, is an effective way to encourage change and develop empathy for users and their lived experiences. Next slide, please. So in carrying out the project, UN Women and Pulse Lab Jakarta were able to identify a number of issues. Research began by examining the existing literature on safety and mobility for women. And it soon became clear that most studies had focused on middle-class office workers. Very little attention had been paid to women working at night, such as shopkeepers, call center workers, or cleaners, who make up a significant part of Indonesia's retail economy. And equally, recommendations that were typically put forward as proposals, from installing CCTV to better street lighting, while important, were more technical in nature as they concentrated on improving infrastructure rather than improving the experiences of women getting to and from work. Next slide, please. Researchers from the project wanted to take new approaches by focusing on developing an in-depth understanding of the female users of public transport. And to do this, 37 women from 3 cities across Indonesia were invited to take part in user research. And this user-centered, research-based approach included carrying out diary studies in which women recorded their travel experiences over 4 days, face-to-face interviews, which allowed the researchers to probe further into the thought processes, the emotions, and underlying beliefs behind the diary entries, as well as field studies where researchers accompanied women on their journeys to and from work. So using the information and the insights gained from this research, it was possible to develop 4 user personas, which are fictional characters that summarize the types of women met during the research. And the next step was to involve the people that could change things: government officials, transport operators, urban planners, and community groups. And this was done as a series of co-design workshops in which the results of the study could be shared and solutions proposed to address the problems identified. So as well as publicizing the research in Indonesia through events like the Global 16 Days campaign, Pulse Lab Jakarta has continued to highlight the importance of good quality data in designing inclusive and sustainable cities. And so sharing lessons learned gained through pilots and iterative testing of solutions are key to ensure users' needs are met and approaches can be scaled within and across cities. Next slide, please. So this gives an indication of how the guidelines can be practically applied to improve the design and delivery of public services that meet the needs of urban communities. This is, of course, not without its challenges. Governments in developed and developing countries, north and south, are facing increasingly complex challenges, as we've heard already today. Overlapping crises like COVID-19, the climate and nature emergency, widening inequalities, conflict and the displacement of people, its causes, and the infodemic of misinformation and cybercrime all converge in our cities. Cities are both uniquely vulnerable and best positioned to be used to coordinate multi-stakeholder efforts to help tackle these overlapping crises. Yet city public procurement is one of the most critical yet under-leveraged areas of public policy, governance, transparency, and accountability. It's therefore absolutely imperative that we continue to scale our efforts to improve smart and sustainable public procurement. It's also absolutely critical that sustainable development principles act as the overarching framework to guide all public sector decisions, be that on budgeting and allocations of funding, recruitment and professional development, use of digital data and technology, etc. And it's in this regard that procurement is by no means any exception and sits at the very heart, the nexus of public sector demand and supply. As UN Habitat stated recently, we're living in a world in crisis and cities are at the front line. This is, after all, the urban age. So it's not surprising that cities are increasingly becoming the theatre of multiple and interconnected crises. Over the past years, local governments and local leaders have demonstrated that cities are where short and long-term solutions come from. They can mobilize communities to bring about the transformative shifts we need as we adapt to our age of crises. And preparing for and overcoming these crises becomes a precondition for transitioning to a better urban environment and a better future. After all, it's our descendants who are powerless in today's society. So marking this year's Earth Day last month, the Secretary General of the United Nations made a moving climate change apology to his future great-great-granddaughter, which was published in Time magazine. By embracing the art of the possible in public procurement, we can give future generations a voice. This requires an unwavering focus on balancing today's short-term needs with the need to safeguard long-term needs to ensure the well-being of our people and our planet. We all, as global citizens operating in diverse, multiple, local and non-local networks, have a social responsibility to act in ways that ensure we're preventing problems and thinking about the long term while maximizing opportunities to deliver economic, social, environmental and cultural well-being. And this is why the guidelines are so absolutely critical and well-timed. Next slide, please. The guidelines represent a new digital commercial paradigm, that is internet era public procurement, which helps cities to embrace more holistic, whole of government approaches to acquiring digital data and technology products, services, and capabilities. These approaches are more transparent, innovative, effective, and efficient. And they also support stimulating and opening up the public procurement supply market to a broader range of entities, such as micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, as well as social enterprises. A digital commercial approach helps to create enabling environments within city administrations, encouraging greater innovation and continuous improvement where anybody feels trusted and empowered to constructively challenge customary practice. Such approaches support cities to embrace more collaborative ways of working, to co-design and co-deliver better policies, better solutions and services by putting users' needs at the very heart. And this means bringing together multiple stakeholders and multiple sectors to approach policy solutions and services in more deliberative and participatory ways, rather than traditional arm's length, opaque and isolated approaches that time and time again result in far from optimal delivery. Ultimately, all of these approaches must come together with a focus on social purpose to deliver social value for money and achieve positive impacts for the community that city administrations are there to serve. Next slide, please. The guidelines are for anyone who engages in procurement activities for their country's public sector, whether that's for local, regional, or national government organizations. The focus of the guidelines is on digital data and technology products, services, and capabilities, as these topics are most needed to support public sector transformation. Information is intended to be relevant internationally and not specific to any particular regulatory environment. The guidelines bring together all aspects of the digital commercial paradigm and are presented in such a way that city officials can implement them in accordance with their own priorities and areas of greatest need. Cities can use the guidelines to operationalize this new paradigm by mainstreaming accessible, human-centered design, data-driven and open approaches in public procurement. While currently the exception and needed a change of mindset, culture and behaviors, traditional approaches were suited to the ways of the past and are long overdue reform. This requires city administrations to invest in multidisciplinary and cross-functional teams. And it's essential that these teams are founded on honesty, transparency, collaboration, and integrity. It's these modern ways of working that underpin the Sustainable Development Principles. I've already mentioned that city public procurement is one of the most critical yet under-leveraged areas of public policy, governance, transparency, and accountability. And so these guidelines serve as the fulcrum that supports this lever to pivot to advanced public procurement approaches that are fit for the 21st century and moving away from narrow, compliance-led, process-orientated, and siloed approaches. In so doing, we improve the opportunities to achieve inclusive, equitable, and sustainable policy outcomes that have a positive economic, social and cultural and environmental impact. And by seizing the opportunities provided by digital government, open data and new technologies throughout the full public spending lifecycle, from planning and informing the market to evaluating and awarding contracts and managing delivery, we can help prevent corruption, fraud and bribery and sustainably meet the needs of communities now and for future generations. Next slide, please. So I'm delighted that the guidelines have now been approved by the 19 UN agencies and programs that support the U4SSC initiative. The guidelines are available to view online or to download from the ITU U4SSC publications page. Finally, John and I would like to thank all of the U4SSC Secretariat and management team, and to all the contributing organisations and the representatives for their relentless support since October 2019. And it's only the final slide that should simply say, thank you.
Thank you very much, Warren. And thank you for the impressive work done and the study in Indonesia. And obviously the public procurement is one of the most difficult issues facing a city. When you talk about money, you need transparency, and all these guidelines are very, very welcome. The guidelines are published and available, and they are intended to inspire. At the U4SSC, the deliverables are not a recipe to follow, and then you will have a smart, sustainable city and community. You can bring fresh air and good ideas and experiences from other parts of the world, and that's the good thing. So we invite you to check these guidelines on the procurement, but also the rest of the deliverables. Thank you very much, Warren. And now the last of our speakers is Cristina Martinez Pinto. Please, Cristina.
Hi there, I'm already sharing my screen. Can you see it?
No.
1 second, let me make sure it's there, right? Are you seeing it now?
Yes, yes.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Well,
much.
First of all, I'm incredibly excited about participating in this session. Thanks for this opportunity. I think as someone with a background in international relations, this session is just a fascinating reminder of the power of international collaborations and about the importance of best practice and knowledge sharing. So this will just be a short glimpse into the work that we are doing at the PIT Policy Lab with a focus in Latin America. I'm going to try to keep it short because I know that we are running out of time. But what I wanted to start with is with this image, with the faces of the people behind our work. We often talk about people-centered development, the importance to put users' experience at the center of any kind of policies that we do to drive digital transformation. And I think this can be seen from two different angles. One, the people we are impacting, but the other, the people that are driving this transformation. So I'm really proud to share with you the faces of the Latin American young expert specialists that are working in the region. They're all Latin Americans, and they have specialties in different themes. For example, UN SDG goals and the 2030 agenda, anthropologists, we have economists, we have human rights and digital activism experts, gender and technology experts, public innovation, public procurement, inclusive design. And this goes at the core of the need to actually enable multidisciplinary teams to see digital transformation not only as a multi-year endeavor, but also as a systems change, as a systemic change approach, where we need to make sure that all these disciplines come together and have a seat at the table in the design of these projects. And here's just a couple. I'm going to share a couple of examples of the work that we're doing so you can get a better idea of how we're working at the local levels, engaging all kinds of actors in multi-sector collaborations. We're working, for example, with the British Embassy in Mexico City in an initiative called Digital and Tech Evangelization for GovTech, where we're working with 30 municipal governments from 13 Mexican states into we had 2 seminars for them to learn about the main concepts around digital transformation. For instance, we held sessions on cybersecurity, on data as enabling foundations, on GovTech as a governance model that allows to enable both the power of public sector officials into training them as change agents, but also to enable SMEs collaboration into providing services to solve public challenges. We also touched upon innovation in public procurement. Actually, Warren was our expert and our keynote speaker during the seminars. We talked about and discussed the application of emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence specifically into the betterment of public services. And what's really interesting about this initiative is after this series of seminars, we asked them what are their key concerns, what would they like to see as next steps. And they said that this was a fascinating first step towards building capacity at the local level, but they do need more support, more help to actually be able to drive digital transformation. So I think all the tools that you're sharing, that my colleagues are sharing, are really, really useful to actually get started from a very specific needs departing point, from assessments to where they want to be at. Actually, tomorrow we're going to have a convening at the British Embassy with over 20 experts from the digital ecosystem in Mexico to discuss what are the next steps and how we can engage and collaborate across organizations to work with a couple of these municipalities that are really interested in giving continuity to the digital transformation agenda. So another example of the work we're doing at the local level is, and I think it relates well to what you were sharing about the different publication that the ITU has, is we had an initiative with the government in Jalisco, Mexico, specifically aimed at Costa Sierra Occidental, the cities of Puerto Vallarta, Guadalajara, and San Sebastián del Oeste. If you have an opportunity to visit, these are amazing tourism destinations. And it was a program on smart tourism, but specifically aimed at SMEs, at empowering them to understand what tools at their disposal can better the services they provide, but also how, as a local government, there need to be policies that enable smart tourism. And the way that we and how we see it, the different components, elements enabling smart tourism are based basically on a Spanish model that focuses on governance, technology, innovation, sustainability of community of resources, and accessibility to make inclusive destinations. This was a project that it was just the first pilot to see what were the reactions of the SMEs, but also in connection to a gender policy, a gender-based policy to also support female-led entrepreneurship in this sector. Another example that I like to share with you has to do with the government of Guanajuato. It's another amazing tourist destination. Very, very beautiful. And this was a project that was supported financed by USA, and in partnership with an international consortium of organizations where ITAB, conformed by ITAB, Women in Digital Transformation, PEAT Policy Lab, and Athena Infonomics in India, because there was a South-South knowledge exchange component. And I think what's really interesting about this initiative is that the government of Guanajuato is already pioneering in the use of innovative approaches to leveraging technologies, and they have an early alert system, AI-based. They're building the AI-based system with the support of the World Bank, to actually be able to identify what are the risk factors that can prevent students from staying in school, and that affect, of course, that then becomes school dropout. So what we realized here is that there was an opportunity to transversalize the gender perspective within this project and within the team, the technical team driving this, the technical and the leadership team at the Ministry of Education of Guanajuato driving this project. And we worked together in first building capacity at the local level by conducting a series of trainings around gender and technology, human rights and technology, ethical considerations put into practice, and then training them in the use of the open tool IBM AI Fairness 360. And what was really interesting about this intervention is that on one side, we worked on the training on the public officials, but on the other, we also had an intervention using this tool where we were able to mitigate gender-based bias. So this was very important because it allows, because all the focus of the intervention that they're doing is because they want to have data-driven solutions and policy interventions. And what happens when these policy interventions are flawed because the data is biased? So we were able to reduce this bias, and in turn, this translates into a better classification of the female students at risk of dropping out of school. So this is just a reminder of how important it is to work both with the technical team, but also with the leadership team in the development of this kind of thinking and skills. And I think a last example of one of the projects that we're currently conducting that I want to share, even though this is not necessarily focused at a city level, I think it's important because when we talk about digital transformation or about the use of artificial intelligence to drive the digital transformation, we often forget about the people who are behind the powering of these industries. And this project, Mainstreaming Gender Perspective in AI Crowd Work in the Global South, has a specific focus on this. And what we were discussing and how this project started is that we saw an opportunity to identify what are the characteristics of women in the Global South, specifically in Latin America, working in crowdwork platforms, for instance, in the data labeling of images. And we realized by conducting experiments, qualitative surveys, and creating a methodology to reach out to these people, because it's very, very complex because of the way their work is structured and designed. We realized that these workers first are working in isolation. They are working in without any like social protections. These women often do not own the devices, the computers where they work from, or sometimes they work from the cell phones, and they have to negotiate care activities at home to be able to conduct these kind of works. This kind of work is a supplementary income that goes towards their families. So I think first understanding what were their conditions allowed us to actually put on the table a solution that comes in the form of a platform called La Independiente, which is a resource center for female crowd workers in the Global South in Spanish, where they will be able to connect to each other to learn from just like advice from other crowd workers. It's something that was crucial and was missing as part of these interviews that we conducted. It will allow them to also train on the kind of skills they need to develop to become better at the kind of work and tasks they're performing. And basically empower them, because we think this is just the first step for them to connect to each other, thinking on a second step that has more to do with activism, with collective action. And it is not only about how we reach out to these workers, but also how we reach out to policy teams. We conducted all this work through the Toloca platform, which allowed us to filter by geography. Many other platforms do not give you this opportunity. So that's like a first recommendation. We cannot really measure or know if there's no data available from the companies that allows us to do this kind of research. So working with Toloka was fascinating because we were able to identify from which nationalities these women came from. And again, all the series of learnings that stem from this project. And it's a collaboration with the Feminista AI Network. So I think I would definitely recommend everyone to follow the work that the network is doing, because it's allowing us to rethink digital transformation from a feminist perspective. So I have many more examples that I could share, but I think it's important to put not only a face to the people that are driving this project, but also a more specific idea on how digital transformation looks like at the local level, responding to the context and needs of the people that we design for. So, well, of course, if you want to learn more about these use cases, I know that I could speak about this forever, but I'd be more than happy to continue this conversation and, of course, to explore how to bring all these resources and tools together with the initiatives that we're moving forward.
Thank you very much, Christina, for showing us your experience on the importance of engaging community with the gender perspective as well, and how also depends on the development of digital competencies to empower the citizens. And now we have a recording of Alexander Boshart, because he's traveling and the connection is not good. He's connected to reply any question, and we have the recording. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity of speaking here today, representing the small city of Puy, which overlooks the Leman Lake near Lausanne and Geneva, with 19,000 inhabitants. I'm currently in the train between Geneva and Munich in Germany. I would like to thank the ITU for offering to record my presentation, and I thank you for your comprehension that I'm not here to have interactive speaking with you. So I will open it. Okay, policy management tool based on U4SSC KPIs. In 2017, the city of Puy launched the project to measure the KPIs according to the U4SSC initiative led by ITU and UNECE and also 15 UN agencies. The result of the application of U4SSC initiative is a 2-meter Excel chart with around 1,000 cells, and also a certificate awarded by ITU and UNECE, the 26th of April 2018. We face two challenges. The first, we can consider that the U4SSC initiative is an excellent thermometer. However, a thermometer to be truly effective, you must know that a fever starts at 37 degrees. So that's why we wanted to collect KPIs target values. A second challenge, here you have the politician of the city who represent the city of Puy. how will they do to communicate with their citizens, with other cities, with the companies, with the local, regional, and federal government, with a 2-meter high Excel chart with 1,000 cells. Therefore, we launched a phase 2 project, which consists of developing an intuitive and user-friendly representation of the data, which aims to be as comprehensible as possible. Here we have the KPIs, which represents the category water and sanitation. For each KPI, we choose a pictogram. In so doing, the reader has an intuitive idea of the content of the KPIs. Of course, we added also the official name of U4SSC initiative KPI and the level of achievement of the target values and some metadata. At the left, we have a summarize of this category water and sanitation, and also the description of the action taken by municipality to achieve water and sanitation category. All those KPIs are published in a report we called PUI under the microscope, and you can download it on the following websites. With the politicians, we try to identify the strengths of this project. So we consider at the U4SSC level that it's very interesting because we have a global overview of the situation. We have also limited number of indicators. That means it's pretty fast, it's pretty quick to collect those indicators or KPIs. It's based on an international norm, and it contributes to reach the SDGs. At the level of the city of Puy, it's an opportunity for the politicians to step back and observe the big picture, to outline the middle and long-term trends. When we say long-term trends, it's more than 10, 20, or even 30 years. It's also an internal and external communication tool for the city, and it provides us potential to exchange ideas and resources between cities. We identify also the potential for improvement, and for our position, they share with us that it's a bit difficult to take into account local specificities. They wanted to add some specific indicators, and they decided to update the KPIs every 5 years. That's why, as we update, the first collection was in 2017, and we are in 2022. So we launched a work which is currently in progress, Puy under the microscope 2024, and we consider as an opportunity to address those potential improvements which were mentioned by our politician. So we decided to add specific local KPIs and also national KPIs. Like that, we have the global level with U4SSC initiative, the national level with the Swiss state initiative, and the local level with the KPIs we will define. At the national level, we join an initiative called Cercle Indicateur, which is led by the Swiss Confederation in collaboration with cantons and Swiss cities. They have identified 32 KPIs. For example, for environment, it's the nesting birds, which represent the quality of the biodiversity in the city. Another example is for economy, tax burden of individuals. For society, social assistance rate. At the local level, we are currently making interview of head of city departments. So some examples for environment, it could be the state of separation of the water drainage system, because we have a drainage water for rainwater and a separate drainage for wastewater. For economy, it could be the annual investment to maintain infrastructure value, and society, the training of employees of the city in cybersecurity. So now the basic question of this presentation is how making a tool which to manage the policy based on U4SSC KPIs. Puis, when at the end of the election, the elected politicians have to publish documents which describe the projects they want to achieve the next 5 years. So it's a policy program called Programme de législature 2021-2026. Now, when you have published your target or the project you want to achieve, you need to pilot and realize them. That's why we launched last year, and we are creating a project management competence center. This project management competence center provide project management methodology, which is harmonized for all departments of the city. It gives also a project portfolio with currently 185 projects in progress. And we are working on a scorecard that measures progress in achieving the objective of the policy program 2021-2026. And we review this scorecard every mid-year. Then every 5 years, we update our KPIs. So the next review, the next update will be published in 2024. And this will help to define the next policy program 2026. So I hope I've managed to highlight the way and the experience of a small city focused on the use of KPIs, the elaboration of the report as a communication tool, and the way to make it a tool for policy management. I look forward to sharing with you innovative ideas, and perhaps with the help of U4SSC initiative, co-create together a project in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And for this presentation on the experience of the city of Uli. So we invite you, all the cities, to participate at the U4SSC initiative. We have run out of time, and I don't know if we have time for questions to be moderated in this session, but because of the episode was expected to have finished a few minutes ago, I don't know if we have time for questions, or we invite Mr. Bilal Jamusi to close the... Yes, please. To give the concluding remarks, Mr. Bilal Jamoussi, please, the Chief of Study Groups of the ITU. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Tanya, it's good to see you. It's been a while. And also I'd like to thank all of the colleagues who participated today, excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining today's webinar on building back smarter and more sustainable cities through the United for Smart Sustainable Cities initiative, a side event of the UN Multi-Stakeholder Forum on Science, Technology, and Innovation for Sustainable Development Goals. I'd like to thank our co-organizers, the government of Tanzania, for and the U4SSC Austrian Country Hub, as well as the Permanent Mission of Austria to the United Nations. Today, we had the privilege to take part in the official launch of the U4SSC Procurement Guidelines for Smart Sustainable Cities, which demonstrates the potential of sustainable procurement practices to help cities achieve the SDGs successfully. In addition, we saw the release of Building a People-Centered Digital Future for Cities and Communities brochure, which highlights ITU's activities and initiatives aimed at driving the development and standardization of smart, sustainable cities and communities. And lastly, we've learned about the U4SSC initiative, the excellent work carried out by the U4SSC Austrian Country Hub, and the power of tools such as the U4SSC KPIs to support cities to benchmark their performance, identify areas for improvement, and help achieve the SDGs. The story we just heard from Alexander was fascinating. I joined Christina, I think 2016, at the city of Puyi to launch the U4SSC in that city. And it's amazing to see the journey of almost 8 years now, and how the KPIs have been instrumental and become a policy tool at the local and national level, in addition to it being an international standard. So thank you, Alexander, for sharing that with us. So I encourage you, everyone, to visit the U4SSC website to get a copy of the new procurement guidelines, the brochure, and to see how cities can benefit from the U4SSC KPIs, as we've heard today from a few colleagues with the examples of how their cities are benefiting from it. As we have learned from Mr. Sezo Onoe, the director of the TSB, at the start of this webinar, the ITU continues to be at the forefront of ensuring digital technologies support the achievement of the SDGs. And I think today's webinar clearly demonstrated that. And I want to thank all of our speakers for sharing their expertise, and also all of the participants for making the time to join us. Our digital transformation webinar series is one of the ways that we identify new ideas and initiatives. So if you have any feedback on this webinar or ideas for the future episodes, I encourage you to be in touch and contact us. To find out about the latest webinars, visit the ITU webpage, www.itu.int/cities. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to seeing you at the next episode. Thank you.